I just Shazammed that. That's what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about the world of physical AI. There's a lot of people here at VivaTech. Bonjour tout le monde. Bonjour Amélie. This is a wonderful panel, and it's an opportunity to talk about an area of AI that isn't prima facie. It's not really, I mean, it works with LLMs, obviously, and we're going to talk about that. But it's about a new data set that's tied to the physical world. How people, places, and things interact with each other over time is what is going to feed this new world of AI. And we've already been in it. I was just pretending to do a Shazam. It didn't record enough of it, unfortunately, to detect the song. Either that or Philippe has got some, very obscure playlist. But essentially, we're going to talk about how ambient sound and cameras are actually speakers and cameras and microphones are really going to create a whole new experience to learn, to work, to play around the world. And so we've got really some of the deep technology experts in the fields of audio and video recognition. So it's a pretty exciting topic. I'm very excited about it. Sights and sounds, eyes and ears of artificial intelligence. And we're going to talk with Stephanie, who's the CEO of Volubile, which is a very popular French NLP company. So I'll go ahead and let you do the introduction.
Thank you for your invitation, and I'm very happy to be here with you today.
Next, that was quick. Dam.
Hello everyone, I'm Damulem from 22, computer vision company, and thank you so much for the invitation, and we have great topics to talk, I think.
Hi, Ken Sutton. I'm the CEO, co-founder of Yobi Inc. I want to talk about my company. Can I say what I do?
There you go.
Okay, great. So at a high level, I'm going to use the time. So at a high level, what we do is we work on extracting all the biomarkers trapped in voice that we perceive as humans, and we pass it off to our customers. So for example, right now, we are all paying attention to what you're hearing coming from the stage. But you're not canceling noise. There's no noise cancellation in the human kind of auditory system, right? You're paying attention. So we help pull that data out so you can pay attention. But you're also getting a lot of other cues from my voice. You're getting the fact that I'm a native English speaker. If you couldn't see me, you would know I was a man. You would know I wasn't a child, that I was an adult. If I was angry, you would hear that in my voice. All these cues are trapped in a human voice, and our job is to extract that information and pass it off, so now you can get a lot of contextual information to your LLM as you communicate with it from a human interface standpoint.
So it's biometric identity, so that everybody has their own identity that's associated to their voice, and it's unique, so that when you have Siri at home, you could be in full control. So anybody else in your house, which also probably solves some of the GDPR issues that we've had with these types of technologies. That's super exciting. I'm excited to go deeper into that. Let's talk a little bit about the demo that you have here, Dam. You're collecting data using a camera, just one camera, and over the last 2 days, you've been able to provide PwC with analysis of everything that's happening in the space. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, my company uses camera because there are already billions of cameras around the world on your phone, everywhere, and you can see all around. And so we use those cameras with non-biometric analytics. We are not storing any images, videos. We are directly extracting vectors from images. So we are fully anonymous. And for example, you can see on the booth just behind, we are seeing and counting people, how many time they are spending on which area, where they are going, etc. And we can go really further with those type of information with my company, because here the demo is here. Just to understand all the flow management during the Viva technology. But my company also bring the forensic software for the French government, for example. We work in retail to understand all the journey of customers, like the Google Analytics for retail, physical stores, and many things.
So both of you have some pretty deep tech that can solve a lot of problems. You both have worked for your respective, let's just call them agencies to detect people and to make the world hopefully a safer place. Stephanie, you're more commercial today. You're using your technology to support essentially chatbots and call centers. Tell us a little bit more about your tech and some of the use cases that you're involved in.
Yes, so our job is to use GenAI and LLM to develop a vocal AI agent. And our job is to automatize all outbound and inbound calls for all businesses around the world. So it's really simple. We write a prompt, okay, for a specific call, and in fact we are able to manage the inbound call for all the customer relationships, for example, or also all the outbound calls for sales. and how you call it prospection, sales prospection.
Prospects,
And in fact, it's live. We have now more than 100 clients in Europe and in China. And so what I say it's live is that it was my dream to make sure that one day I won't need to spend 10 or 12 hours a day on my phone to call my customers and to make new deals, but that now Volubile, a machine, can do it for me, like if it's me.
Is it 100% AI or is it assisted? Like, how does the technology work?
Alors, yes, it's 100% AI, but in fact, we also develop our own technology around the LLM, because what is really crucial when we speak about voice is that to make sure that you believe that it's a human on the phone and not a machine, what is key first is the latency. And in fact, your brain believes that you speak with a human if the latency during the conversation is below 600 milliseconds. So in fact, every time the machine speaks or you speak, you must be with an interaction below 600, with a silence, a latency below 600 milliseconds, which is really small. This is the first challenge. And the second challenge is to make sure that the quality of the conversation and the flow of the conversation is like a human without any arborescence, you know, like on the SVR 20, 30 years ago, but it's like on the flu conversation between you and me.
So this technology, I mean, obviously we've been talking to chatbots for a long time. You're saying that with your large language model and you adapt to each use case. So like, you know, difference between doing it for a Bouygues versus an SNCF. How do you build the models to adapt to the specific client use cases?
In fact, we develop a platform, and what is really key is the connection with the database of information of all our customers. So concerning security, for sure, we don't share this, the information of our customers, the database of our customers with LLM. But in fact, what is key is the connection with this information. Is it and the speed we have to make sure that we capture the information very quickly, like nearly close the real time. And in fact, what is really key and how we make sure that the conversation is the quality of the conversation is 100% sure is the quality of the information of the database, the connection with the database and the information of our customers.
And so do you make it more human? Do you add a in the middle of the conversation so that it makes it sound more human?
If you want, after I can make a small demo.
I don't think we have enough time here, but we will. So guys, I'm fascinated because obviously these technologies have been around for a long time, right? Probably 10, 15 years. AI is not new, right? We're all aware of that. What is it about the current convergence or fusion of all these different technologies? And obviously the advent of ChatGPT and Gen AI and all these large language models has made your technology, which is really on the edge, right? A lot of what you do, you know, you maybe talk about what you're doing on camera versus in the cloud, what you're doing on device versus in the cloud. How do you see this fusion of these different technologies creates that innovation, right? I think innovation happens when you put things together. I was just doing Shazam, right? Somebody had to have the network, somebody had to have the patterns to recognize the song. All of that was really a convergence of different technologies that created a magical experience. And that's what we're seeing today with everything that's happening, right? Maybe one day you'll be you know, at VivaTech and you'll just walk around and you'll have cameras on your glasses and it'll recognize 3 of your best friends in the audience just like that, right? And it'll be a magical experience. It'll create these incidences of coincidences that you didn't have before. So how do you guys see that fusion happening for your respective businesses? And I'll start with you, Ken.
Yeah, you know, for us, you know, I use an analogy around, you know, Tony Stark's in Iron Man, right?
You know Tony Stark?
In Iron Man. And so there's no universe that Tony communicates with Jarvis without a technology, something like ours, right? He has to know, one, he's got to know it's Tony Stark's. I'm not going to just fire a weapon without knowing it's Tony. I have to have all your emotional cues. I have to have your health status. I have to know pretty much all of your biomarkers I get from voice. Is a very human interface. And that's where I see some of these modalities going. Once you bring in visual and you bring in audio.
Multi-factor.
It's multi-factor. And so, you know, we all know what's happening with you know, OpenAI and Johnny. And so some of the new technology coming down the pipe, we're going to change the way we think about communicating and interfacing with our devices. It's going to be different. And so the days of fingering something into the phone, it's going to be gone into a conversational type of vertical. And some of these technologies are going to be pivotal in making sure that those technologies are actually seamless with the human interface.
Dom, how do you see it for computer vision? Because that's what scared people. Remember, I used to have Google Glass. Remember Google Glass? And people would call me a glass hole, which is, I shouldn't be saying that. I don't know if it's recording that properly. But how do you see that evolving with computer vision?
The vision, the camera on cities, for example, always make afraid people of it. And it's a fact. So the past years was about to say how it works, how the technology works. 10 years or 15 years ago when I began on computer vision, it was another space. Now you have the conventions, you say. Now it's about knowledge and not using just to track someone. It's about how you can use this technology. And I think the main thing is today, it's easier to make new technology because the cost of hardware, thanks to NVIDIA on cloud services, years ago, you need to train new models for each new question you want to ask or new object you want to detect. So the main thing is today, thanks to OpenAI, ChatGPT, Gemini, all this, the LLM, VLM, or all new transformers technology, now everyone knows AI. AI, it's more than 30 years, 40 years now. But now it's in your hands. So I think it's the main thing. It's now we can use AI on every day. You talk about the earth, your vision, everything. It's the expansion of human for that.
So can you help us get into and out of VivaTech more seamlessly next year, maybe? Because I don't know if you guys had any issues coming.
Maybe I will part of the technology. Maybe I will part, but then you have API to connect to any system. Maybe Viva Technology will use our technology and yours and help your customers for that.
So then let's switch gears and talk a little bit about the, obviously there's a lot of infrastructure that's required. You guys are on the edge of AI, right? How do you see the model with respect to how it relates to the hyperscalers and, obviously the OpenAIs, which is very closely coupled with Microsoft, obviously Google, others out there, obviously Mistral here in France. A lot of it is the compute happens in the cloud, which is what allows us to all benefit from something like a ChatGPT. With your technologies, and in particular, I'll go to you next, Stephanie, do you enable your clients to actually have and host their own technology, or is it all still cloud-based? And how do you see that evolving over time?
Ken, help me. It's a difficult question. I don't know if I will answer to this question specifically, but what I'm sure is that in the next years, we won't need to have this kind of device. We won't need to have a keyboard on our computer, and that voice will become voice and images.
Natural language.
Yes, natural language and images will be key, and that we will just need to communicate by voice. Just speak like this. With the technology, with the Ken technology, we will just need
edge compute, right?
Yes, we will just need to speak like this, and in fact, something will happen directly. So we will just need to say, okay, I need a new app to listen my music, and I want to have this kind of music, etc., like this, and it will happen. And this is for me completely magical and completely amazing. So what I strongly believe is that voice and images are key. Behind this, it's data. It's data. Yeah. So we will become a world of data, and it will change. It will change. I believe strongly. I'm someone very positive, but it will change our humanity.
Yeah. So VLM isn't just video large language models; it's potentially voice large language models.
Yeah. What I was going to say was basically to co-sign with Stephanie on this. All of our stuff is on the edge for a reason, not just because the compute is more effective or the latency is lower. It's for security purposes, because we are extracting some biomarkers that we think need to be on device. So I think what it allows us to do is actually let our clients do the magic that we do from a biometric and identification standpoint, and do all the compute in the cloud for their own system. So we have SDKs, and our booth is right back here if you want to see it. We're running on very small compute. But the magic of it is what we push off of that small compute device allows you to run tons of analytics And it's taking unstructured data to a certain degree, a lot what you do, right? We take unstructured voice data, we tag it, knowing who said what, and now you can search it, and if you can search it, you can analyze it.
Right.
But we're doing all of that on the edge.
Yeah, and so in your case, 22, you can give a client the algorithms to have the data and the AI on premise, on bare metal, as opposed to having to put everything in the cloud.
We have all use cases.
Yeah.
For security reasons, sometimes it's full on-premise. We cannot do more training. It's really closed. Sometimes we have hybrid and sometimes fully cloud. And we are also going, like blockchain, we are going to decentralize also all the computes, because for security reason and for ecologic also, we need to go further and not to focus on one devices. And even if we can compute on our iOS devices or Android devices, you cannot do the same compute also. So when you look for some specific question or analytics, we talk about MPC and agentic, and we need to decentralize also the compute. It's really important.
It's interesting. When we were talking about the fusion of a lot of different technologies, a couple years ago, you'd come to VivaTech and it was all about metaverse, the M word, which, Scott Likens, I don't know if he's here, he was saying that that's become a bad word. And it was also about blockchain and decentralization. These things don't disappear. They're still part of our lives, and they're going to come back roaring in this new world of AI that we're building, right? You mentioned, I guess some of you might be aware of what, John Ives and Sam Altman announced with this. We imagine what this device is going to look like. It'll be some type of wearable that's constantly listening to your life, and then at the end of the day, you can get your resume and you can feed it straight into, everybody's agentic. Well, there's an ability for us to actually start collecting the data, right? Because the only way you're going to get to the eye is through the training of the data set, not to mention the connectivity, which everybody seems to assume Wi-Fi is great, and your wireless carrier. I don't know how many of you guys have had problem making phone calls here at VivaTech, but clearly there's an issue with connectivity. People just assume that away. By the way, I forgot to introduce myself. My name is Patrick Perotti. I'm a managing director at PwC, and I have a team in DC. We have a lab where we deal with a lot of these technologies. In fact, some of you guys, including Ken, are part of our ecosystem, where we bring our clients in, we show them the art of the possible, and then we actually put our money where our mouth is, because we deploy and manage solutions for our clients around these new IoT technologies. So where do you see, on the device side, how do you see your technologies fitting in? Because you're on device, you could be on camera. Going back to you in terms of how you can engage with these call centers, right? Is there an ability for you guys to bring technology, and how do you see the evolution of these different devices, right? I mean, obviously, some of us are wearing glasses, right? It's already AI, right? Because I can barely see you guys, but when I put this on, wow, it's magical, right? That's what AI is all about. How do you see your technologies fitting into these new devices? And I mean, everything could be voice activated, right? A coffee machine should be voice activated, right?
Yeah, so I say this a lot. You've never seen a futuristic sci-fi movie or show where people are typing. So the only reason why you have a keyboard on your device, the only reason, is because you can't talk to it. Now, that's not going to go away for high complex things like,
Pretty soon you'll be able to think, right? If Elon
exactly.
and Newton Howard, who's a friend of mine,
Exactly.
he has the FDA approval for human neuromorphic computing, right?
Exactly.
So maybe that's next year.
Well, I mean, but speech, from a human standpoint,
speech
communicating voice is the most natural way for us to communicate thought and things to another human. So anything that we do outside of that modality is not natural. So it's going to be woven into the technology sooner or later.
It's a quite good question. I think also that those technologies like infrastructure for human, we bring roads, we bring cloud, we bring everything. It's just the extension for us. In medicine, for example, somebody who just lose his arm can have a robotic arms. And it's all about this. It's all about how you can help our future also. As I mentioned, the knowledge also to help us understand our behavior of every day. And you talk about training. I don't think training will be an issue in the near future. I really think that we won't need to train new model. I think we will be really large, and thanks to quantum physics and other stuff, it will be another way also. But I don't think our generation will see that.
Okay.
We are bringing in maybe building those technology, but I don't think it will be in our everyday sooner.
So we have a few more minutes. Prepare your questions. I'll end with the basic question that everybody asks at these types of events. How does one make money with your tech, right? So what's the business model? How do you engage with clients today? Stephanie, you want to go ahead and start?
Just to complete what you say, I completely disagree.
Okay, well that's good. A little debate.
I think that I will see a lot of changes, and I hope that I won't need anymore some devices like this, but just something, as you say, Patrick, something here that can speak better English that I'm doing today with you, okay? But it will translate automatically what I'm telling you, and that everything will be nearly invisible. But I'm sure it will happen in the next 10 years or 15 years. And the biggest news for me in 2025 is that John-Eve decided to join Sam Altman, and I'm sure that these two brains will create something amazing in the next months and years.
Yeah, maybe it'll be a startup at VivaTech too, right? We don't know.
Yeah, exactly. So in fact, our business model is just like telecom. To make it very simple, we automatize all your calls, inbound and outbound calls with our machine, and you pay a few centimes. We say few cents. You pay few cents per minute, which is very easy to deploy in your company.
Tu te débrouilles très bien.
Merci.
Do you want to talk really quick about your business model, and we'll open up to questions?
Our business model is made on, we made licenses depending on how many streams you need to analyze in real time. Because for now, it's about physical world and the cost of the compute. Okay. So we are based on this.
So it's a capacity.
Maybe in the near future, when the capacity of compute will be different, I think the business model will evolve.
Yeah.
And we have a licensing model. It's value pricing because everything behind us, unfortunately, is gated by the success of us extracting the voice from the field. But we are, we're on the edge, so we're per device licensing, and we also do some on-prem type servicing as well.
This is where maybe we can help as PwC. So, I mean, obviously, the outcomes is what counts, right? Particularly when you're talking to B2B. These are all B2B technologies, right? They're not consumer technologies. And so ultimately, either you're saving money for your clients or you're making money for your clients. And then you want to be in that stream somehow. So that's something that, we believe is particularly when it comes to AI, right? There's not a lot of people making money with AI right now, but if there was a mechanism, and we're an accounting company, I forgot to mention that, that you could figure out sort of the before and after of some of these technologies. Maybe there's a there. Anyway, with that, wanted to open it up to questions. I'm sure there's some. There we go. Could we get a microphone to this gentleman, or do you want to just yell? If you could say who you are, and I know Ken has a way to just identify your voice in a crowded space, so hopefully. Sorry to make you move to do this. Appreciate it.
Pardon me. Thank you very much. I'm Craig Foreman. I'm here representing as the chair of a foundation that's focused on technology, news, and authentication and authenticity. I came in a few minutes late, so forgive me if you address this right at the top. Mais j'ai des doutes, parce qu'on était un peu optimiste. And so I'd like to actually ask one of the challenging questions. Authentication of voice, authentication of images, authentication of first primary data is a big issue. But it doesn't seem as if that's on the radar screen. And do you think it'll be handled by platforms that'll assure the authentication layer, or do you think it's a vertical that you'll need to do yourself?
Yeah. I'd love to chat with you after, because I do think there's a potential blockchain element to this for sure. But in the meantime, I'll let these guys talk about how their technology does that.
Yeah, to your point, I'm actually on the board of a company that does this exact thing because we don't want to leave it to the larger enterprise customers to validate this information. I think it's going to be, to your point, I think it's going to be a third party. It's going to have to be. To a certain degree for it to be actually truly authenticated. So we are looking at those situations, not just for us, but also for our relationships with generative AI and those type of things.
It's a good question, thank you. I think for key encryption that we have, a lot of hyperscaler, when we are working with them, provide those key. And sometimes they also have partners, like in France, if I do take GCP, and Thales with the Sense system that they made. Google don't have the key encryption. So I think it's about, we say, decentralized information and security, that layer of security that we need to put. And when we are on premise, most of case we are working with IT departments to be aligned with their critical infrastructure.
And on our side, trust is an important word for PwC, trust.
You stole that was my tagline. Thank
sorry.
you. No, it's better to hear it from third parties.
And in fact, for us at Volubile, trust is transparency. So in fact, the customer have access to the recording of the conversation. They have access to the summary of the conversation, and we strongly believe that trust is transparency for the businesses, but also the customers.
I should have recorded this using otter.ai, but I didn't, and I would have had to tell everybody, which I didn't. So, no, trust is a key piece. Any other questions from this great group? No?
We were so clear.
Yeah, it's all very clear. Hopefully this was interesting. I want to thank everybody for being here, and unless you have a last word of wisdom, Ken, have you enjoyed Paris?
Yeah, the first time in Paris, totally enjoyed it. Traffic, not so much, but everything else is fantastic. I think we have booths here, we have representatives, so come around and actually see us. We'll do live demonstrations and talk to you a little bit more about our technologies.
Okay, so one last question. Yeah. How will this experience be different next year? You start. 2 words.
I think real-time demo for everyone. It's like at school, you learn theory, but it's always nice when you have the experience. Yeah. And I think, and I just go back to Ken, and I think go back to our booth. We are in mainly different places, but it makes the difference.
And as we're all confused about this world of AI, I think our global chairman, Mohammed Kande, said it very well yesterday. You have to fail, but you have to learn, and you have to act. So it's important not just to sit around and listen to all these great technologies. Whatever your business is, you got to go in there and do it. You got to learn. It's okay to fail as long as you learn, and don't fail the same way again. Right? That's the key. So with that, thank you guys so much. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.